Hi, I'm John Kadolf. I'm a world famous chili maker, and I am also one quarter of the Lost Blokes. And today I'm here to discuss Near Dark.
Hi, my name's Dave. I'm feeling my vampire thing, so I got me some Irish red beer, Irish Celtic not red ale, and bottle rocket Irish red. And I'm a quarter of the Lost Blokes, stumbling around here out in the soon-to-be deserts of Nebraska.
Dave, I'm Dan, one quarter of the Lost Blokes, and I'll have whatever donkey piss you're shoveling down these cork soakers' throats.
Like, comment, and subscribe.
Oh man, that bar scene is belongs right up there with one of the Morrises, because oh man, it goes from funny to terrifying to sad, back to funny again, back to like all in like 10 minutes.
It hits so many emotional points. And it's something that we should have realized and for the amount of bullshit that Catherine Bigelow had to go through to direct this film, because apparently they got the money together, but about the first week or so, they wanted to see her rushes every day to see if she was actually doing proper work. Welcome to 1986.
Yeah. Was that
And
because she's a woman or because she was a first-time filmmaker, though?
I think it was a little bit of both. First-time filmmaker and a woman, and yeah, she'd done some second unit stuff. She'd done some DP stuff. She'd written some really good scripts. But trying to put the whole thing together can sometimes be a bit of a trick. And having shot, and I'm not even going to say I've done anything that's even on the scale of anything like this.
No.
But I've done some short films, and it can be maddening just dealing with like 3 cast members and 4 members of a crew. So trying to shoot an entire film, has got to be a trick.
With big explosions and
big explosions. Holy shit! Thank.
Yeah. Did the presence of the 3 aliens cast members lend her any credence? I mean, because they were they weren't producers on the movie, were they?
No. Apparently she was talking to Jim Cameron, who she was in a relationship with, and he had talked about his experiences working with the cast members of Aliens, and said, hey, you might want to consider casting, I think. And also apparently Michael Biehn had got offered one of the roles in there. I think he was actually offered the role of Jesse and then turned it down.
I think that would have been one cast member too many, where everybody would just been like, hey, it's an Alien sequel. When are the aliens going to show up?
I think especially Michael Biehn being such a noticeable member of that cast. Lance Henriksen was kind of it's ironic because Lance Henriksen had been around acting way longer than them.
Yeah.
I mean, he'd been in Dog Day Afternoon. He'd been in a bunch of other films.
He was in a lot of stuff in the 70s, I think, or at least a few things.
Yeah, and he had built up a really nice career for himself as one of those that guy actors, but hadn't really built a singular name for himself yet.
Right. Michael Biehn, I'd seen him in a couple of things before, notably Terminator, but before that he did like 1 or 2 things, I think, too.
Yeah.
Isn't he a killer in some movie or something?
I think so.
Yeah, and then Jeanette Goldstein, I think, was discovered in Aliens.
Yeah. And again, that seeing her in there just made me smile because she is hands down. I think everybody has a love affair with her character in Aliens because I mean, just so tough and
in this movie, I mean, to me, the moment that really one of the moments that really elevates this is when she lets him beat his feet at the end and like get a head start.
Yeah.
Because I didn't. You could see that she's going along with Lance Henriksen because she's got to. She's stuck in this for the haul, but she doesn't always approve of everything.
she knows who she is in relation to everybody else, and she acts accordingly.
Mhm.
But in the end, there's still something of a little bit of a moral center left in her.
Yeah.
And I think she sees him getting an opportunity that she always wanted to take. Near Dark is about a character by the name of Caleb Colton, a kid who lives out in the middle of a local rural area. His dad is a veterinarian, and he's basically trying to get a line on who he is in relation to adolescence and all these other things. He's out and about, kind of being a typical, teenage dirtbag, when he meets a lovely young lady by the name of May, who turns him into a vampire and then introduces him to her family, who includes a former Confederate soldier by the name of Jesse, a complete scumbag by the name of Severin, a friend of theirs by the name of Diamondback, and their buddy Homer, who is a old man in a child's body. They run around and basically do vampire stuff. You see Severin going out and picking up a couple of girls and then turning them into lunch. And then you see a bar gets completely destroyed as they go through the bar, killing and feeding on everyone. Meanwhile, Caleb is trying to work up the guts necessary to make his first kill, but can't quite seem to bring himself to do it, especially during a scene that involves a truck driver who's actually a very nice, sweet guy. And the entire time, the tension of the scene ratchets up while you're waiting to find out whether or not they're going to kill him. Long story short, he gets eaten, but not by Caleb. So Caleb's dad, a guy by the name of Loy Colton, played by Tim Thomerson, who's one of those great all-time character actor guys, is out looking for his son and manages to find him. Long story short, we'll go into a bunch of other things as we go through this. There's a happy ending when he gets a blood transfusion. Sorry, that always pisses me off. Mm-hmm. And brings him back into being human. He brings May back into being human, and all the other vampires die, especially in one particularly spectacular method involving a gasoline truck. And that is basically the film in its most basic nutshell. Long story short, I love this movie. The ending kind of pissed me off, but I am a firm believer in vampire happy endings. We go on and we kill everybody.
I'm up. Yeah. Tim Thomerson, you mentioned. I've been a fan of his since the day I seen him in the first movie. I don't know if it was Transfers or what it was that I first saw him in, but damn, he can hold the screen no matter what the circumstances are.
He walks in and he just has a general sense of dad authority when he comes walking into a room.
In this movie, but in other movies, he's totally deadpan and funny in Transfers.
Oh yeah.
And Transfers could have been. I think Transfers only succeeds really because of him, because essentially it's a Blade Runner ripoff.
Yeah.
And the sequels are pretty good. They got Helen Hunt in Transfers 2.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it stayed pretty good all the way through Transfers 4, and it's all Tim Thomerson.
Yeah,
give this guy more work.
just keep him working, because that guy makes me smile.
Man, I'll tell you, this was one hell of a great Bill Paxton movie.
Dave, what you were saying, we didn't mean to derail you there, but you were in the middle of observation about the cusp of adulthood with.
Yeah. And that to me is kind of like the character arc for Colton, is that, we all have those periods as adolescents where we're running around trying out all the naughty stuff, and then we decide how much of that really fits us. And, Colton's been dragged into this head first, into this reality that everybody else lives in. And he's trying it out, but he can't really bring himself to go all the way through with what it is that they're doing.
I have to say, I didn't find him to be 100% a victim of his bite, because he coerced a kiss from Jenny Wright, which was a little cringeworthy.
Yeah,
but he paid for it, so.
Yeah, I think that's an element, though, that goes hand in hand with that thing of, who am I? Am I this person? Am I that person? Am I a bad guy? Do I take what I want? Do I, what do I do?
Well, and this movie is sort of the lesson that teaches him not to, I guess.
Yeah, or you might be turned into a vampire and have to hang out with this crew. Holy shit,
Yeah, me.
Oh, go ahead.
For me back then, the problem wasn't trying on all the dark stuff to see what fits. It's that my fucking closet wasn't big enough. Yeah, I kind of had a bit of a crisis there.
especially where you're in that between being an adolescent and being actually turning the transition into adulthood, when you're trying to decide who you are and establishing your own identity for yourself and then trying to grow into it. And that kind of is like the big metaphor for me in this, is that Colton's sitting there and going, well, I'm not my dad, but I'm sure as hell not these guys. So who the hell am I in relation to everything?
Well, what's your opinion on the best delivered line in the whole movie?
Best delivered line in the whole movie?
Uh-huh.
Oh, finger licking good.
That was good, but that whole scene where he's on top of the bar, I don't know about the line, but the way he's delivering it's Pinochle, that thing. To me, that was pure. I don't know if he had just seen Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2 before filming these scenes, because on the one hand, it definitely feels like Bill Paxton, but on the other hand, it really feels like Chop Top from the Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2, right before when he was like burning his brain with the little, and then I have a request, that stuff. So I feel like he had seen that and was channeling it, or maybe they were friends. I don't know, but there was something very similar between those two scenes that I thought was kind of amusing.
I would love to see the film where the Sawyer family is hanging out with Jesse and his crew.
Right.
They're just like every now and again they stop by on the way around. They're like, no, we really don't want the chili. Nothing against what's in it. It's just not our food.
Yeah.
Hi, John.
Hi, John. So I was saying that the Lost Boys is kind of a West Coast rock and roll vampire setup, and this is very much like a Western. It even has like the showdown in the middle of the street.
The end.
This was the right way to do Western vampires.
Jenny Wright, who's the girl in the movie, I had seen her once before in Pink Floyd The Wall. She played the groupie, and I was just amazed to see her in another movie. Yep.
You want
Romeo and Juliet? Obvious comparison, I guess. Almost all vampire movies have that kind of built in, because there's always the baked in notion of, like, I got to show you the ropes, and if you're not going to kill people, this is going to go really badly for one of us, or all of us.
Well, that's also another thing. I mean, you look at some of the characters in there who are way older than they appear to be. Jesse being, a former member of the Confederate Navy, who is that representative of a dream that died off for good reason. And, Severin, who is just this kind of scumbag sort of character who strikes me as a Depression era sort of.
He really enjoys being a vampire. He doesn't have any angst about it like these other people.
However, he does date back to the Chicago fire.
Yeah.
At least. Hey, Jesse, remember that fire we started in Chicago?
I was going to say, there's a common trope in vampire movies that they deliver lines that are callbacks to an earlier part of history that they existed in, kind of to show their age. I kind of like that sometimes, but when it's so obvious, like that line, hey Jess, remember that fire we started in Chicago? That was kind of, I thought that it's kind of neat to be able to place where he existed at what time. And but it felt a little forced.
I thought that was a good line, because it might seem forced now, but after it's been done so many times. But I think in '87 that was probably one of the first times that had been done.
Yeah, in '87 that was good.
And also it was a bit more of a different take for 1987, because we've seen some different takes on vampire films since then. But I mean, we were still. Lost Boys had come out like the month prior to this, and then buried that film buried Near Dark bigger than life. Also, Near Dark suffered from its production company went bankrupt, and so they didn't really publicize the film, and they didn't have a lot of faith in a modern vampire flick to really decide to put some money into it.
Well, John and I saw it in the theater together in '87. I remember, and it was a different time back then when movies came out. You had your big wide release Lethal Weapon 2s and things, but you also had every week you would check the guide for some movie you had never heard of to show up, and you
Oh,
just
yeah.
seen, and you just would see it's a horror movie. Grab your stuff, John. We're going to a horror movie. We don't even know what it's
Pack up your
about.
shit. Let's go.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we don't even know what it's about. We're just gonna buy some popcorn and sit down and watch a horror movie. And you'd see more crap that you wouldn't normally watch, but you'd also find a lot more um
Gems,
diamonds
in the rough.
diamonds in the
Oh,
rough.
yeah.
And this, I remember coming out of the theater with this one and going, God damn.
Holy shit.
Yeah,
What
Yeah.
just hit me?
Right.
it was such a good movie then, and it holds up just fine.
Yeah. There's a couple
There's
of moments that,
flaws.
yeah, most of it feels pretty fresh.
Yeah,
There's a couple of things that maybe go, oh, that's very, 80s, but
yeah,
there's a lot of stuff that still feels fresh. I really like, we were talking, I mean, we all kind of talked about the bar scene, but I really want to like focus in on that because like I was saying to Dave before we started filming, that scene goes from terrifying or funny to terrifying, back to funny again, and then to sad, all in the space of like 10 minutes.
Uh-huh.
Like you have the entire arc of the movie in one scene.
yeah.
It's just perfectly orchestrated, and that has to be Catherine Bigelow to a large degree, and the editor, I would imagine. But
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, to be that accomplished on her first film, I mean, she went on to win the Oscar for Hurt Locker, which it's not my favorite movie, but well deserved, I guess.
I think it was a film that definitely caught a moment in time, and also was a good example of getting the right actors in the right place. Because, I mean, it was Jeremy Renner, a bunch of others as well.
Mhm.
But I think Catherine Bigelow has a really good sense of timing and a sense of like a good emotional center of a film.
Did she direct Strange Days?
I think she did. Let me look that
Oh
one
my
up.
God, Strange Days is fucking amazing.
That is a film that I want somebody to fucking stream it so I have an excuse to be able to watch the damn thing.
Directed by Catherine Bigelow. Okay.
Fuck yeah.
So I would say that Catherine Bigelow deserves an Oscar, but not in my opinion, not
For
necessarily
Strange
for The
Days.
Hurt Locker, but for Strange Days. The opening sequence of that movie is like one camera shot. I mean, there's probably edit breaks, but it just goes
It's front
on
to back
for-
genius, yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing. And you can see where that's coming from already in this movie because whoever her DP was fantastic because it shot a lot in the dark. Yeah, but unlike today's horror movies where you can't see what the fuck is going on, I clearly know everything, where everyone is, where everyone's situated. The way they're situated actually adds to the tension, like you were mentioning in the truck scene where is he going to bite the guy? Is he not going to bite the guy?
That you just feel the tension going up, and like you just hear this guy talking. You're like, please, if you're going to kill somebody, don't make it this guy.
John, you're the vampire guy.
I hate it when they ain't been shaved. That's probably one of my favorite lines in the movie. My vote for the worst delivered line in the movie is this a dream? Slap me because I want to wake up.
Yeah, but he saves that moment when he slaps him and he goes, "Guess what?" or whatever he says to him.
But that I think that was the worst delivered line.
I was discussing that with Dave. There's a couple of really awkward, very hyper real early Hollywood tropes at the beginning. It's very because it's kind of toying with noir and detective, even though there's no detective stuff in it. It has that kind of vibe. So when you see like Jenny Wright and Adrian Pasdar having their romantic stuff, early on, listen to the night, you can laugh at that. Or if you're watching it right, you say, oh, they're playing with these old 40s, this heightened style of 40s acting, that.
Yeah. You want to go out for a bite? A bite?
Yeah. All of that.
Hey, you two girls want to go out for a drink? It changed that. I mean, this film kind of was one of the things. I mean, Lost Boys touches on it, but this film makes it genuinely gritty. These are guys who are constantly on the run and moving on to the next place because everywhere they go, they create yet another mass murder crime spree. And their means of survival is to just keep moving because none of these people are going to grow out of being the vicious. None of them will ever be the suave, smooth vampire. These are going to be your hardcore, feeding on anything they can get their hands on, stealing the money out of their pockets and moving the fuck on kind of vampires.
I got the sense with that truck driver when Adrian Pasdar kind of wanted to let him go, and I got the sense that Jenny Wright's character kind of wanted to let him go too, but she's like, we've gone this far and we've got to feed I've got to feed tonight, so it's here, I just got to do it, you know. Like there's no like, even though I'd say the only one who's really having fun about the whole thing would be Bill Paxton.
I think Jesse's an interesting character because Jesse's about the responsibility of it.
Jesse has a lot of
his job is to keep him under control.
Jesse has to keep everyone safe. He has to keep everyone fed, and he has to figure out where they're going to be. He's got so much on his mind. He's not out to kill for fun.
Yeah.
You know, and I was just telling Dave, you know, like the saddest character probably is Homer. Because you get the sense it's creepy because, you know, he's an adult in a kid's body. And it's just there's no scenario where he gets treated like an adult by any of these people in the rest of his life.
And you know, it's like it calls back to Interview with the Vampire, and in the very real situation that would exist if vampires were real is that inevitably there would be people that were 150 years old trapped in the body of a 12-year-old.
I thought it was a great additional. It throws a complete monkey wrench into everything because right before then, everybody's getting along. They're, you know, like Bill Paxton's giving him his spur. He's one of them now. And then of all the fucking people in the world this kid could spot, it's his sister.
Yeah.
You know? The only thing that could have screwed it up for everybody.
Of course, that's just the way the world works. Yeah.
If it was any other little girl that he wanted to turn, it wouldn't have mattered. So they wrote that very well. You know, as far as why, because a lesser writer would have just written it that he wanted to change a little girl and that he had a problem with it. But the fact that they, you know, that
it is his sister that forces everybody else not just to go. That forces all the other characters to go, okay, now we have a situation that we have to deal with. They have to do it immediately because the second that Lance Henriksen learns that's the case, he's like, okay, lock the door.
But I think that's also something that Homer is sitting there looking at her and going, well, if the brother's here and I can get her, I've got somebody else I can share this fucking curse with. And I think that I mean, it's kind of terrifying to sit there and watch him realizing this is an old man in a child's body, actively going out of his way to court this small child specifically so that way he can, in a very real sense, kind of share that ongoing curse that he has to suffer through with somebody else.
I was just going to add one thing, but I think I might have forgotten. I think that vampire movies at this point can also stop showing us what happens when vampires eat normal food. You know, back then, you know, that was an introductory movie, you know, so it was important for them to show that. But nowadays, a vampire movie being made doesn't need to show what happens to a vampire.
Well, there's also like this coy thing that the screenwriter is playing with that, like, yes, we know it's a vampire movie, but the vampires are never mentioned as vampires. It's sort of like the werewolves in The Howling, where the setup in The Howling is, you know, like going to a support group and all the people in the support group are werewolves, but you never actually say werewolves. You just drop these little hints of around the periphery, you know. So like, I think that's what he's doing is like, you know, I'm not making a vampire movie, but I'm making a vampire movie, you know. I enjoy this a lot. It holds up. I would say that there's very few movies that I would sit down with my parents and watch horror films with. This is one of them that I would say that they would probably enjoy. It's not what I like about a lot of the 70s and 80s horror movies is that they weren't just horror movies. They were stories that predominantly were horror. based, but you had other elements in there. Today, like if you look at like The Conjuring and things like, everything is so and not saying that they're bad. I like modern horror movies too, but they're kind of one note in a way because they stay completely within their genre and they don't stray into these other. I mean, like the writer of this wrote The Hitcher, and he wrote a couple other things that are really good. He isn't just drawing from horror when he's making this movie. He's drawing from westerns. He's drawing from history. He's drawing from all sorts of things, and to make a more rich world. And I would like to see a return to some of that.
I'd be good with that.
Yeah. So I just want to say press play. I really enjoyed it. It was difficult to come by for a while because it was out of print. So it's nice to see that Shudder has, and I believe Amazon, you were saying, has.
Amazon has it as well.
But hopefully we'll get a 4K upgrade soon. But looks pretty good on Shudder. And if you're a fan of Aliens, it's worth it just to see 3 of the best cast members from Aliens let loose to just do whatever the fuck they want. Like Jeanette Goldstein, like just slits the waitress's throat and sits back down. Bill Paxton's a fucking madman, and Lance Henriksen's probably the coolest he's ever been on film in this movie.
True.
So press play.
Yeah, Dave? For me, I'm definitely going to say press play on this. It's a very, very one of the first really good gritty takes on vampires that stepped away from the whole gothic element of it and instead made it a combination of Western and such. And yeah, I really think this is a film that if you enjoy horror films and want a different take on vampires than what you've seen in the past, check this one out.
Yep. I'm going to absolutely say press play. This is probably one of my favorite vampire movies. I just have such intense good memories of pondering the idea behind Near Dark when I was in high school, and really kind of developing a sense of dark based on that movie and other period vampire films. But Near Dark was definitely where I started to develop the romance aspect of the kind of vampire girl that I would want, and May was her. Yeah, most definitely press play. See it a couple times. It's great to revisit every couple of years and watch. But yeah, absolutely.
Like, comment, and subscribe. Oi,